Wow. Wow. That's really dark. Hang on here a sec, folks, and let me put some more light on this. Maybe that's a little, man, not much better. Okay, let's do this. Sorry, adjusting light while I'm talking to you guys. I've been gone for several weeks. I don't even know where to start. Okay. I just got home last night from Pease Air Force Base in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Oh, that's a lot better. You're getting to see all of my gray hair and my thinning gray hair, I guess is what I should say. But folks, we got so much to talk about tonight because I've been on the road so much, and I'm leaving again Thursday for Andrews Air Force Base. So welcome to the September 9th Lessons from the Cockpit Bar Night with Sluggo. And let's chat about where I've been. Because some interesting things have happened while I've been gone, particularly the air show that I was at last weekend, the Thunder over New Hampshire air show, which was fantastic on Friday. Why wasn't it so fantastic on Saturday and Sunday, Mark? Because we got rained out. And we knew Saturday and Sunday were going to be, shall we say, iffy. Okay. I got the zebra lines on my face. Hang on. Much better. We knew that the weather was going to be iffy on Saturday and Sunday. Little did we realize how bad it would get when the Blue Angels took off. So we got to Boston Monday, had a great time with my son in the music industry for 2 days, doing fun stuff with him. And going to a concert that was just fabulous in Boston at Boston Gardens, now called TD Gardens. So Wednesday we were picked up and got up to New Hampshire. Thursday I spoke at a Rotary Club, and I talked about what it was like being in Portsmouth during the Cold War, which I was 85 to 90 when Pease Air Force Base closed. And I specifically talked about one event. I've mentioned it here before. In September of 87, we had a Russian submarine up close to the coast. And so we went into what's called double ARP, Alert Aircraft Repositioning Plan. We actually had airplanes at the end of the runway ready to take off in a moment's notice. And folks, that's kind of scary. But here's the crazy thing about being in double ARP. People around Portsmouth and Boston and everything knew something was going on, but not the extent of it, not how crazy it really was. There was a submarine called a Yankee Notch and it's a cruise missile sub. And I think the flight time was like between 20 minutes and 15 minutes for nuclear weapons to potentially strike Pease Air Force Base. So in order to survive the fleet, we put airplanes on alert at the end of the runway. So in taking off just a couple of minutes, now they're taking off in taking off in a few minutes. Now they're just taking off in a couple minutes. I was not in that alert cycle for that 2 weeks. It happened just as I came off and ended just before I went back on. But for about 4 or 5 days, if I remember right, we were in cockpit alert because the threat level was that high. And I write about it in my book, in the chapter called Klaxon, Klaxon, Klaxon. I was able to go back and find records of where all of the Russian submarines were, and I was able to nail this down. And when I nailed it all down, I with every chapter in my book, I had other people read the chapters, look at the chapters, look at all the history and everything to make sure I was not, smoking dope in the book. And sure enough, I confirmed with 3 other people plus myself that in fact the Yankee notch was there. And it was above Bermuda a couple hundred miles. And it's just scary, man, because you're thinking to yourself, you've got 3 FB-111s and 3 tankers in the hammerhead at the end of the runway with crews in the cockpit ready to take off at a moment's notice. Meals on Wheels is coming out there feeding us. We're sleeping on the airplanes, one person has to be on headset at all time and awake and listening, so people could kind of rest every once in a while. But the other crazy thing is, because Pease Air Force Base is really close to the Atlantic Ocean near a beach, the winds would change every night. And so during the day, we were on 3-4, and at night, we were on 1-6. And then we'd switch. So when I say alert aircraft repositioning plan, there's we were flying the old KC-135A models, and so we couldn't take but like 2 knots of tailwind. Certainly not like the R models. We could have taken probably 10 or more. But because we were in the old water wagons, heavily loaded with gas, we had probably 172 to 174 fuel loads, 174,000. That's a lot for an A model. We would have to switch ends of the runway every day, every morning and every evening. There was a couple times we didn't, but for the most part, as the sun was going down, the wind would change and we'd have to go to the opposite end of the runway. So, hey, Wayne, how you doing? No matching tats or piercings with my son. Nope. Also, Yankee sub number 16, SN6 liquid fueled ballistic missiles. This was a specifically made one. They called a Yankee Notch. And it was a cruise missile boat. Now, maybe I've got that name wrong. I haven't gone back and looked, okay? Hey, Sean, welcome. Conducting an all-service briefing and pose the question, what would you do if you found a scorpion in your tent? I know what I'd do. I'd just squash it. The spiders, on the other hand, Sean, is completely different. Back to the Yankee Notch. And again, Wayne, you have to look this up for me. I had the number in the book, but Airman. I'd call room service and find out why there's a tent in my room. Okay. The Yankee Notch had cruise missiles, kind of like our SSGNs have now. And it was a really exciting time, folks, having those things that close and being that nervous about what's going to happen, because obviously every crew, I was living on, I was not living on base at that time. My wife and I had just met each other. We'd met each other in August of 87. We got married in March of 88. So I still had an apartment off base, but a lot of the married guys are like, what's going to happen to my family if this really does go down the way it may go down, where they just go, the Soviet Union is collapsing and we're just going to go out in a big burst of flame. And that was one of the things that we were talking about. There were P3s at Brunswick in Maine, and I think they had them at South Weymouth in Massachusetts, okay? And I think they dropped enough sonobuoys that you could probably walk from Bermuda up to the Northeast. But let's see, Pease was on cockpit alert. Plattsburgh was on cockpit alert. Loring was on cockpit alert. And Griffiths was on cockpit alert. Basically the whole Northeast. So I told that story to the folks at this Rotary Club last Thursday, and they're all like going, wait, what? There was a submarine and you guys were on runway alert? We go, yeah. I said, yeah, we were. Not a lot of people knew that. All of you people driving up I-95 had no idea that there was more airplanes on alert carrying 4 nuclear weapons with more tankers. It's crazy. Then I talked about driving the aircraft carrier while it was refueling. And then all the stuff that I did at the Combined Air and Space Operations Center during the Shock and Awe campaign. So that was Thursday. Friday was Family Day at, it was called Thunder over New Hampshire Air Show. And folks, it was absolutely gorgeous that day. Beautiful. High shows all the way around. F-35 was there, did its demo. The Blue Angels did their demo. On Thursday afternoon, the Blue Angels and the F-35 had rather long practice sessions, which was really cool. And so I was out on the ramp, obviously, for that. And then the Family Day for the community and the guard units and everything there was fabulous. I mean, just fantastic. The really cool thing was there was a lot of vapor, condensation, and wingtip vortexes coming off the airplanes because we're by the beach, all right? And the air was pretty moist and was going to get a lot moister. Thank you, Wayne. Yeah, Samson SSN 21s. You're bringing like a lot of memories, Wayne. So Friday was a great day. Got to see the whole air show. And then everybody's like going, ooh, Saturday, Sunday are not going to be good. Well, the air show started about 11 o'clock. A lot of flying. 3 P-51s called Jack Aces. They did their thing. There was a gal who was a wing walker there. It was very interesting to watch. The F-35 did its demo. And again, lots of condensation, vortexes coming off the wingtips and everything. I mean, it was just fabulous. And you can see some of the video that I took here on my YouTube channel or TikTok and Instagram too. Whenever you have that kind of stuff, it's awesome as a photographer. And there was a lot of photographers on the ramp that got some incredible pictures. So Friday was great. They were all done by about 4:30. And hi, Michelle. And hope your wedding, Michelle, went well. And thank you for your email. All right. Hope everything went well with that. Saturday, by about 1 o'clock, it started building. And the F-35 put on its demo, which was amazing. And again, a lot of vapor or condensation around the airplane while I was pulling G's. And the Blue Angels took off and did their show. And about as soon as they took off, a bunch of us went, wow, I wonder how long they're going to fly. Well, I can tell you about 20 minutes out of a 45-minute show. In the videos that I have of the Blue Angels flying on Saturday, you can see the rain clouds moving toward us. And I mean, it's a lot of rain. And it's the Weather Service, National Weather Service saying, Friday was the high show, and you're correct, Wayne. They did the low show on Saturday. Okay, 20 minutes into it, everything slows down. They all slow down. The two ship goes by. The two solos disappear, and they're off somewhere waiting, because now it's really coming, and you can see. Whenever you see a gray-green cloud and clouds and a wall of water coming at you, you know that's not good. Okay. High show, Michelle, they do with pretty much unlimited visibility, because the thing is, Michelle, they have to keep each other in sight. They have to be able to see each other. In the wet weather, like we had on Saturday, they can't see each other. And so they want to stay in what we call VFR conditions. And I think they had to have 4,500 to 5,000 feet between ground and ceiling. And if I remember right, landmarks too. Okay. Hey, Tommy, welcome. And I've been gone for a week. And that's what I'm talking about, being in Boston and Portsmouth last week. So 20 minutes into the show, the wall of water is coming, and those of you who've been around the seashore, you can smell the rain, okay, when it's coming. And sure enough, man, it just unleashed on us. I mean, walls and sheets of water. And the Blue Angels were thinking, okay, well, what are we going to do now? Well, Mother Nature even put an end to that because of thunder and lightning. All right. And they were kind of holding somewhere. I'm not sure where. And they're going through their heads. I'm sure they've got their criteria for, okay, do we stay up? What do we do? Do we land, take off again, whatever? Okay. Lightning cancels everything. And there was this great big, huge flash, a great big bolt of lightning. Hey, Brian, welcome. And the announcer goes, ladies and gentlemen, the show's canceled for the rest of the day. And they came in and landed. Actually, they held for a while until the major portion of it blew over. But, once you have lightning, cloud to ground, cloud to cloud, you're done. And they came in and landed after 20 minutes. The next day was fascinating, though, because the next day they said, we're going to take off later. Instead of 1:30, we're going to take off at like 3. Well, the weather still wasn't really good. It had rained all morning, most of the early afternoon. And so they did something very interesting. Blue Angel number 5, one of the solos, took off and did a weather check with 1, 2, 3, 4 sitting in one of the taxiways, and number 6 waiting to take off. And so number 5 started doing this weather check, and it's crisscrossing the base and everything. And what I later found out was they look like out to 5 miles from around the base. All right. And he reported back, ceilings are too low. Can't do it. Can't do it. All right. And that was sad. And so the 5 ship, the Diamond and the single solo all taxied back in. And then number 5 landed, and there wasn't anything they could do. Now, I think part of that decision was they were going home that day also. So the later they waited, then it pushed their takeoff to go home to the point where they're landing at night. And, if you can avoid flying at night, landing at night, it's like way more better. Reason being is if you have an emergency, you don't want to deal with it at night. And so they landed and got all their stuff ready, and they in fact did leave. Okay. But not too long after they landed from a number 5 landed from doing his weather check, about, I don't know, a half hour to 40 minutes later, it cleared up. The ceilings were much higher, up around 7,000 feet. And so the F-35 demo team says, hold my beer. And she took off. And not wanting to disappoint the air show fans, most of them who had left when the Blue Angels said, we're done, the F-35 demo team put in an amazing demo, because the air is still saturated with moisture. So if you go to my YouTube channel or TikTok, there's one pass where it comes from behind the buildings. Okay. It's like a parade review or something like that. Okay. And you see it go by. Oh my gosh. There's just vapor coming off of the thing like crazy. And the F-35 demo pilot, Kruzner, I can't remember her call sign, said, well, I'm up here by myself. And she made several high-speed passes around the buildings, doing the tight turn and everything, and just beautiful vortexes off the wingtips, the ribbons off the wingtips, and the cloud. And what was crazy was she did the high-speed pass, and it was a double shockwave. It's 2 shockwaves. So go look at the things that I put up on YouTube and TikTok, and I think I've got them on Instagram. But here on YouTube, you'll see as she's going down the runway, there's like this kind of double diamond shock thing around the jet. And she did that about 3 or 4 times. It was just amazing. Okay. Mike Jam, welcome. Rough weekend for us. Would have loved to shake your hand and thank you for your service. Mike Jam, I was out there still every day, just because I was there to support Portsmouth and the air show. But again, it was amazing the amount of rain that we got from about 3 o'clock. Let's see, they took off about 1:30, so 2:15 to about 6 o'clock. I mean, it was just pouring on the ramp, and the water is just running across the ramp like crazy. And until the next day, the next morning, it finally stopped raining about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. But again, they had low ceilings. Okay. The ceiling, I remember looking at it, was only like 1,200 feet, which they can't fly in. The Blue Angels can't fly in. Like I said, somebody told me they had to have 4,500 to 5,000 foot ceiling, and they just didn't do it. Well, it cleared off about half hour after they landed, and the F-35 demo team, she just rocked it. Just rocked it, man. The P-51 Jack Aces, the 3 P-51s, they took off, did their show after she landed in the F-35. Just a lot of fun. Okay. Spent a lot of time on the ramp. There was 2 KC-135s there, one from the Maine Air National Guard. They're called the Maniacs. And another one from Niagara Falls. And the Niagara Falls jet had a weapons school grad, the colonel, and there was 2 weapons school grads on the Maniacs jet. Call sign Shutter, because he likes cameras, and Raid, boom operator. There's actually a boom school now that teaches the same thing. And she is now stationed at Kadena and was just home and wanted to come down. But the colonel, here's a funny story. The colonel on the Niagara jet, his call sign was CUDA, C-U-D-A. And of course, whenever there's an unusual call sign, you have to ask, why? How'd you get your call sign? So I asked. And lived in the 70s. That must have been amazing, Brian, in the 70s, because that was a very busy base. So he kind of does this cultural appropriations thing. There's a portion of the syllabus where we're down in San Diego, and if any of you live down in San Diego, there's a great Mexican food restaurant that's been there, I think, ever since I was a kid, like in the 70s, 60s and 70s. It's called Casa Guadalajara. It's in the old Mission District, Latino District, okay, on Washington Street. Now, if any of you go to San Diego for any reason, you have to go to this place. But don't eat during the day, okay, because it's a lot of food. Their chimichangas are about like this, okay? They're huge. And they're delicious. It's a great place. I took all my weapons school classes there when we were doing the Navy portion. All of them went there. So they were down there, and he walks in and goes, my name is Jose. My name is Jose. We are here for burritos. We are here for tostadas. We are here for margaritas. And he's talking like that. And of course, all the other students are like going, we don't know who this guy is. They're kind of backing away from him. All right. Well, he did that a couple more times somewhere else. And so on patch night, or excuse me, call sign night, he got the call sign CUDA. Michelle, you're showing your age. Jose, my name is Jose Jimenez. Is this your crash helmet? Oh, I hope not. Anyway, CUDA stands for culturally unaware dumbass. CUDA. That's what his call sign meant. And of course, I heard that story and just laughed uproariously. Just a great story. But the really cool thing is when I was in the KC-135s, I told everybody, hey, I'm the author of the book Tanker Pilot. I was running air refueling for Operation Anaconda, Operation Southern Focus, the run up to the Baghdad shock and awe campaign and the shock and awe campaign. And hey, John, welcome. And told him some of the numbers, that I've related to all of you. My largest offload, 103,500 pounds into a B-52, took 22 minutes to do it. All those kinds of things. It was just a lot of fun. And it's just the regular crowd up there. Of course, on Sunday, it was the real diehard airshow fans. But it was just cool to get up there and just talk, tell them, hey, this is what this airplane does. We take off with 180,000 pounds of gas. That was our war load during the shock and awe campaign. That's more gas than your cars will use in 27 years. figuring 1,100 gallons a year, according to the automotive magazines. A typical family uses about 1,100 gallons a year. So it's just fun to talk about that. Sold a bunch of books while I was there also. And just had a great time talking to all the folks. Okay. Met a lot of great people while I was out there. I've told all of you I was stationed there in the I was stationed there from August of 85 to August of 90 when it closed under the first BRAC, Base Realignment Commission. And so we were trying to get all of us, a bunch of us together from the old 509th Air Refueling Squadron. And unfortunately, the weather wouldn't allow that. But there were two people that were there, Nicole and Al, that were in the squadron. I got to see them and talk to them. It was great to see them. Wonderful to see them. You know, it's amazing. You know, I haven't seen them since basically August of 90. But that friendship and camaraderie is still there. Still there. Matter of fact, they both their house is down on the beach. I think she said in Rye Beach, has 5 big bedrooms. She says, next time you're here, stay with us. So that would be a lot of fun to stay down on the beach. Okay. Anyway, your car doesn't use avgas. Understand. I kid. But folks, it was just wonderful to be there, you know, and there wasn't a lot of airplanes on display. They had a C-17, they had a B-52, several KC-46s they opened up, and then the 2 KC-135s. They had some, you know, Civil Air Patrol Cessna 172s and some other airplanes. All of the flying airplanes were off in their own area, you know, because they're always working on them and filling with gas, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, Mike Jam, it was great to see old friends, you know, and renew that acquaintance, those acquaintances. My aircraft commander that I really wanted to see didn't make it up, obviously, because I told him, you know, hey, the air show is going to be a scrub today, not realizing that the Blue Angels would give it the good old college try. The F-35 would actually get off the pavement and put on a fantastic show. But anyway, there wasn't, you know, nothing you can do about that. So just had a great time. And I leave Thursday for another air show. I will be in Maryland at the Andrews Joint Base Andrews. I can't remember the whole name. Andrews Air Force Base, their air show. I will be hanging out with the Berlin Airlift Historical Foundation C-54 Skymaster. I'm going there as part of my duties on the Gail Halverson Candy Bomber Foundation. And I think they got permission to do candy drops because I think we're doing 1,500 parachutes. We're dropping 500 over the 3 days that we're there. And if you've ever seen 500 little parachutes coming out of an airplane, it's crazy. It's pretty cool. I have seen 300 come out of this C-54, and it was awesome. And Tim Chope, who's the pilot, does a fantastic job of lining the airplane up so that all the candy bars go into the crowd. And it's pretty cool to see. They have certain parachutes made for them. Oh, wait a minute. I've got them right here. Anyway, you put 2 fairly good-sized rubber bands around the piece of chocolate, and the parachute has this netting on it, and then it has that on the front of it. Gail Halverson, Candy Bomber Aviation Education Foundation. Okay. So imagine 300 of these coming down. And when we did it here, in Spanish Fork Airport, not but like a couple months after he died. I think it was 3 years ago. They dropped 300 of these. Hershey sent us 300 candy bars. I mean, the like this, okay, and it's pretty cool to watch all this come out. All right, so I leave on the 19th of this month for Atlanta. I will be in Atlanta attending what's called the Military Influencers Conference. I will be staying with my good buddy Coma. Those of you who have watched my show, Coma has been on twice. He was one of the lead systems engineer for the F-22. He was also an F-4E Wizzo, and it's got all kinds of great experience. But the really cool thing is, he lives in the house he grew up in. His parents passed away several years ago, and he just took over the house. He was working at Martin Marietta, Lockheed Martin at the Marietta plant, where they, I think that's where they built the F-22s. Anyway, parents passed away. He is an aerospace engineer from Auburn University, and his house is just amazing. And again, it's the house that he grew up in. We met each other when we were like 8, 9 years old in 1968 and have remained good friends ever since. He is a terrific aviation artist. And he's one of those guys that can draw everything freehand. I mean, he's really good. But I'm going to be staying there with him. Sorry, this late question. You mentioned Cessna Recon planes. Are they like Yak 4s, or is this the big plane? No, the Cessna airplanes I'm talking about are with the Civil Air Patrol. They're just Cessna 172s is all they are, Michelle. So, Bear, thank you. Thank you for sending that. I really appreciate that. Both colorblind, we can see things most can't. You view. I appreciate that super fun thing there. You know what, Bear, I was fortunate that I was born with extremely good eyesight. Wang Chung, welcome back. When I went for my first physical for my pilot slot, I had 20/12. What you see at 12 feet, I could see at 20. I could read the second to the last line. And I read it perfectly. Okay. The very last line, which was like 9C or something like that, I missed 2 letters. But I was fortunate that I had really good eyesight. Now, my eyesight has deteriorated, obviously. I was working on a plastic model of an F-16, and I had a harm missile, and I'm like, ah! Okay. If it's within about 18 inches of my face, I have to have reading glasses now. But just reading glasses. I don't have to have anything stronger than that. And I went into the optometrist and I said, hey, was working on a plastic model the other night, had a harm missile up, was working on it and everything. And he's like, what were you doing? I said, I build plastic model airplanes. He says, how old are you? I said, I'm 42 years old. You're 42 years old. You still build model planes? I said, I know people in their 70s that still build model planes. And so he put me on the little thing, with all the little dial things that, you adjust. You've all seen it. And he goes, yep, you need reading glasses. And I'm like kind of complaining, about, oh, nuts, man, I need reading glasses, and he goes, dude, you're 42 years old, okay? Quit complaining, all right? You've had 42 great years of great eyesight. I noticed here in your records you had 2012 when you came into the Air Force, all right? Well, you burned that all up. All right. So now I wear reading glasses, all right? I don't wear them except for when I'm doing really close work. But my Clark Kents, that's what I call them. My Clark Kents. Anyway, Tommy, do they have a model kits where you can build almost the whole thing, or are they mostly put together? No, Tommy, I build the ones that you literally have to put together. So, a great point, Tommy. I, for a long time, was a member of what's called the International Plastic Modeler Society, which is still running to this day. They just had their nationals here in, God, where'd they have them? Had them back east somewhere. And modelers from all over the world come with their plastic model, their tanks, their ships, their cars, their spaceships, airplanes, helicopters, everything. And oh yeah, Wang Chung, Tamiya has fantastic models. They build probably the best. They manufacture probably the best models in the world. Mr. Tamiya just passed away just a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact, and he was 89 or 90. Anyway, Wayne, I only do 1/48 scale, and I've never done 72nd. I've never done 32nd. 72nd too small, 32nd too big. I've always done 48 scale. Okay. I've got Hasegawa kits. I've got Tamiya kits. I've got others, but let me get into that in just a second. So, ever since I was 5 years old, my father did plastic model airplanes, and I did too. Folks, it was a great, great way for me to learn about airplanes, about engines, props, control sticks, ailerons, stabilizers, everything. Okay. And I have built thousands of plastic models. I don't have one to show for it because of a move. When we moved from St. Louis to Spokane, Washington, every one of my models was destroyed. And I haven't built one since. Okay. I've got a closet full of them back there, behind you guys there. And I'm also I also work with Tamiya on their kits. Okay. Kind of as a consultant. All right. Which has been a lot of fun. When Wang Chung, when Tamiya put out its F4B, its Navy F4B, one of their business development folks who I'm good friends with said, hey, this is, I moved to Spokane in 1998, November of 1998. I've done a lot of consulting because like I said, I had my camera with me everywhere I went. And so because of my model hobby, I would take pictures of a lot of the airplanes. All right. And I'd literally take pictures like I'd put the airplane in quarters. Okay. Here's the tail. Here's the midsection. Here's the cockpit area. Here's the nose. And then go around the other side, do the same thing. Sometimes even more detailed than that, like 8 or 9 pictures of one side, 8 or 9 going down the other side. All right. So I had a lot of pictures. Right now, that box of pictures is in the possession of a very dear friend of mine, Scott Brown, who does Bullseye Model Aviation graphics. And matter of fact, he's getting ready to do some other decal sheets, aftermarket decal sheets. But as a consultant for Tamiya, this gentleman came to me, George came to me and said, the These are the 3 airplanes we're doing. F4B, okay, Sundowner, 201, with the great big sundown on the tail, obviously. VF-51 Screaming Eagles that had the big eagle down the spine, okay? And then they were going to do VF-161 Rock River 102. And I said, don't do 102. Do Rock River 100. He says, well, we're not sure what it looks like. I said, I know exactly what it looks like. And because of my illustrations, I sent it to them, and they said, oh, okay. Well, the Rio, on the day that it got 2 MiG-17 kills, was still alive. And 9 days after they got their 3 months after they got their MiG kills, he got shot down in that airplane, the same airplane. So I sent him the pictures, and I said, and the drawings, I said, hey, is this what it looked like? And he goes, he says, no, the MiG silhouettes were red. And the pilot, the plane captain's name was this, okay? So we got it all straight right from the guy who flew the airplane, and sent it off. And sure enough, that's the one that they did with the 2 MiG kills. And man, it's an awesome kit. Tamiya makes, really exceptional kits. So, but that's how I educated myself on airplanes. I built World War I airplanes, World War II airplanes, Korean War airplanes, built a lot of jets, Vietnam, later years, things like that. I just enjoy that stuff. Okay. So, Randy Cunningham, rest in peace. He just passed away not too long ago, the Navy ace. I just saw his Rio Willie Driscoll at Tailhook. He was there. He has a book that he sells on leadership. So that's one of the things that I did. Michelle, you're talking about great intel. There was some really good intel things that I've got from people that were there. And man, folks, there's crazy things happening now. Okay. Have you seen the interdiction of the Tren de Aragua narco boat with a Hellfire missile? Here's the story behind it. Wang Chung, I do not live in Spokane anymore. Moved from there quite a while ago. Here's the story. It's down in the Caribbean, leaving Venezuela, and they can tell that it's got drugs in it. Okay. Big bundles, probably fentanyl, all that kind of stuff. Well, it's a go fast boat. It's got 4 engines on the back of it, but it's not going very fast. And I think that they didn't know that the MQ-9 Reaper was there initially. And over a period of time, they probably realized or heard the engine of the Reaper and may have spotted it. I don't know. May have. I'm not sure. But they take off. And you see in the portion where they actually engage the boat that it's moving fast, okay? Because there's a big wake behind it. But your boat's not going to outrun a Mach 1 missile, Mach 1.2 missile. And they hit it. They took it out. And of course, it immediately stops and it's on fire and all those kinds of things. They said there's 11 people in it that, all perished in the engagement. But how many of you know that about 2 hours ago, they interdicted another boat? They interdicted another boat with gunfire. And it's on YouTube now. It's getting splashed all over the media. It looked like it was at night. Okay. I don't know if it happened 2 hours ago, if it happened last night or whatever, But 2 hours ago, they released video of them engaging another boat, and they're doing it with gunfire, and a lot of gunfire. And a matter of fact, the boat catches fire. And this video was in color, not the monochromatic like you see in the Reaper, okay? So can Britain have Trump as PM? No. That's all I'm going to say. All right, excuse me here just a second. Sorry, chewing my ice cubes again. So, Bear, I go to great lengths not to get political here, right? Let's talk about aviation, military, commercial, and general aviation. I've thought about doing a geopolitical thing like this. My jury is still out on if and when I'm going to do that. All right. I think you're going to see more of these drug boat interdictions. How many of you saw the video of the F-16s, the Venezuelan F-16s flying over the Jason Dunham? I want you to go back, slow that video down. It's not an Aegis destroyer that they're flying over. It's a propaganda film. Now, they did in fact fly over the Jason Dunham, but the video that they put out is another type of destroyer. It is not, I repeat, it is not an Arleigh Burke class destroyer. And I noticed that the first time I looked at it. The stacks are different. The islands are different. This boat has a completely different shape. So if you slow it down, you'll see it's a ship that belongs to somebody else. And somebody else has also mentioned this too, that it is not video of the Venezuelan F-16s flying over the Jason Dunham. I don't know how low the F-16s flew over the Jason Dunham. They did a pretty good job, man, of holding weapons tight. Okay. They have ways if they're being painted by radar or sensors and stuff like that too. So, yeah, Brian, I think you're right, Brian. I think it was a frigate from another Navy, because it was not an Arleigh Burke class. And you could tell, and again, I've been on Arleigh Burke class, destroyers. Okay. And again, I could tell right away, wait a minute, that's not the Jason Dunham. That's something else. Okay. Why do all Americans call airplanes airplanes? That's a discussion for an English class, Bear. It's just our way of messing up your English language. But go back and look, okay? Go back and look and hang on, Bear. Let me. It just didn't look like it, and I could tell when I first saw the outline of the ship. I've been on Arleigh Burke class destroyers. I've been on like 13 or 14 of them. That ain't it. So the other interesting video that I've seen recently was the Russians intercepting a P-8 Poseidon that has the long-range synthetic aperture radar under the nose. And what I didn't know was that thing kind of deploys. They can, it's mounted on some kind of scissor system, and it actually moves away from the bottom of the airplane. So if you go look up Russian Su-27s intercept P-8 in the Black Sea, you'll see this P8, and it has this long range radar extended under the fuselage, the forward fuselage of the aircraft, and it's looking for stuff. And it's a very very capable sensor. It's some kind of active electronically scanned radar for ground mapping, finding targets, and all kinds of things. I knew that the P8s carried that thing. I've seen lots of pictures of it on it, but I had no idea that it actually extends from the bottom of the airplane. Okay. 23 from Canada, I'm assuming. Welcome. Oh, here's something really interesting I heard. And folks, I have not confirmed this. So please take this with kind of a grain of salt. I was talking to one of the KC-46 pilots. This KC-46 pilot had flown E8 Joint Stars. And he said something very interesting to me. I said, yeah, it's too bad that airplane's gone. It had great capability and could do great things. And he goes, yeah, it's too bad it's gone, but the KC-46 could do the mission. And I went, wait, what? What are you talking about? He goes, yeah, the KC-46 could actually do that. I said, I'm not following you here. He goes, if we take the radar canoe off the bottom of the E8 Joint Stars, the KC-46 767 airframe is actually wired and cabled to carry that canoe. And I went, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, that was something that we were working on when we got rid of the jets, because the Army wants to keep that capability for obvious reasons. And folks, it's an incredible capability. The E8 Joint Stars had some amazing capabilities. And yeah, Michelle changed some math. Yeah. And he just flat out told me, he goes, oh yeah, the airplane's plumbed and has all the wiring and all the cables and everything just to put that canoe that had their radar on the bottom of the E8 on a 767. I was floored. I had no idea. You know, the battle that's going on right now over the wedge tails, the E7 wedge tail radars to replace all of the E3 AWACS. And believe me, folks, Bear, have a good night, man. I know it's really late where you're at, okay? But again, thank you for sending me the pounds, man. I really appreciate that. And hopefully all of us here will again go give you a like, okay? Yeah, Bear. Brian, the E2 can't do that job. It's not fast enough. You know, it's not fast enough. And it can't, well, I say I can't stay up for a long time, but now it's air refuelable. But the E7 wedge tail, like the Australian Air Force E7 wedge tail, are doing fabulous things. The Japanese have the 767 AWACS doing fabulous things. I'm sorry, you have to have a jet-powered AWACS. It has to be able to keep up with the fighters. And the E2 Hawkeye can't do that. It can't. And so I was glad when I saw some people in Congress go, let's take another look at this. And, you know, I'm always extremely leery when somebody in Congress goes, no, we ain't going to do that. In this case, I was glad that somebody raised their hand and goes, we need to reevaluate this. All right. The wedge tail is a fabulous airplane. Electronics in it is expensive. Yeah, I understand that. Okay. but the E-2 Hawkeye is a propeller-driven airplane and will never keep up with a package of jets, which means you have to launch it way in advance, and all you're doing is using up gas and cruise. So, yeah, Brian, exactly. When we retired the EF-111, and you know what, Brian, in my personal opinion, is the Air Force should buy a bunch of the Growlers, EA-18Fs or Gs, excuse me, EA-18Gs. I think the Air Force should have its own at least 2 or 3 squadrons of jammers like we did with the EFs. There's going to be times where the Navy's not going to be around. The Air Force packages. Classic example was the raid on Libya. The F-111s went with the F-111 bombers. And again, I think that we've got that platform. That platform is doing fabulous. The great thing is, I think I told you guys, I talked to the squadron commander of the Zappers, and he has the pilot in his squadron who got not only 1, but got 2 drone kills on 2 separate days in 2 different jets. That means that airplane carries AIM-120 AMRAAMs and can defend itself. Doesn't have the gun, but has the jamming pods, has HARM, has ARGM. I think the Air Force should have at least 3 squadrons of them. 1 here in the States, 1 in the Pacific, 1 in Europe. If it were me and I was Chief of Staff of the Air Force, which is never going to happen, but if I was Chief of Staff of the Air Force, I would say to Secretary Hegseth, we're going to put F-15EXs at Kadena. We're going to resurrect the 12th, the 44th, and the 67th Fighter Squadrons. And I understand they're going to put 48 jets there anyway. I would also put with them a squadron of EA-18 Growlers, Air Force EA-18 Growlers, and have them in the same paint schemes, I guess, as the F-18 or the F-15EXs. I'd put 3 squadrons of EXs at Kadena. I'd put 1 squadron of EA-18G Growlers at Kadena. At least 12 jets, 12 Growlers. I'd put the stateside Growlers at Mountain Home, and I would put the Europe Growlers at Lake and Heath. That's what I'd do. 3 squadrons of 12. All right. 36 jets. Because Brian, good question. East Coast. I'd put them at Mountain Home simply because that's been a combined wing. I guess you could put them at Langley also, because Langley's down like, to what, 3 F-22 squadrons. That's the guard and the 2 active duty ones, But I really feel that we have to have the E-7 Wedgetail. Can't do it with the E-2 Hawkeye. Don't get me wrong, folks. The Hawkeye is a fantastic airplane. It's a fantastic platform for the mission that it does. All right. But put Wedgetails at Tinker, where the 552nd, Airborne Warning and Control Wing has always been. Put 3 squadrons of F-15 EXs at Kadena. resurrect the 12th, the 44th, and the 67th Fighter Squadrons. All right. The 12th Eagles, or the Dirty Dozen, as they called themselves. The 44th Vampires, just super rich history in that squadron. Wild Weasel Squadron in Vietnam. The Bats, as they call themselves. And then the 67th Fighting Cocks, resurrect those 3 squadrons in a wing at Kadena with 12 EA-18 Growlers, jammers. Brian, I understand F-35s at Kadena. I would, they're making a super wing at Osan, Brian. I don't know if you've heard that. They've gone down, they've taken the F-16s out of Misawa. They're replacing them with F-35s. But one of those squadrons, I can't remember which one. I can't remember if it was the 12th or the 13th. The 12th Samurai or the 13th Panthers is going to Osan. And one of the F-16 squadrons is getting rid of their jets at Shaw. I think it's the Gamblers, the 77th. And it is also going to Osan. They're going to make a super wing at Osan. And if I'm not mistaken, Kunsan is going to have one squadron left there, and one of their squadrons is going to Osan. There's going to be 4 F-35 squadrons at Osan. And I don't know how many of you have been to Osan. There's 3, they call them diamonds, that all have hardened aircraft shelters on them. There's a lot of room on Osan. A lot of room on Osan. So Osan, what they say, is going to be one of these super wings, F-35 super wings. Now, you dovetail that with 3 F-15EX squadrons at Kadena with their collaborative combat aircraft, their drone, AI-driven drones that Androl is making, or whichever one we buy. Okay. God, what's that guy's name? Parker, the Androl guy. Please tell me his name. I can't remember his name. I mean, just a brilliant guy. And to have EXs, 3 EX squadrons plus the drone AI capable wingmen, killer. I would put 3 to 4 of the wedge tails at Kadena. They had the 961st AWACS squadron there. Have them there also. I just make it into another super wing like we had when I was there in the 90s. E7 wedge tails, 3 F-18 EX squadrons, and those EX squadrons have the collaborative combat vehicles with them also. Man, we had airspace out the wazoo there too. We had a lot of airspace at Kadena. We had a live drop range at Kadena. Did you guys know that? We had a live drop range. It was east of Kadena, east of the island, all right, where you could drop live web. People always came to Kadena because they knew that the F-15s could defend the island. Those guys would come in and, like Air Wing 5, Carrier Air Wing 5 would come down. They would fight with our F-15s on the way into the target, drop their bombs on this it was an island. I can't remember what it was called. Not Chikdo. Chikdo is the one up in Korea. Iyashima Island. And then they'd have to fight their way out. It was great training, particularly if you had JOs. And of course, they had the helicopter squadron there. We had a King Air squadron, a VIP squadron also under our wing. But if you could put wedge tails, 3 F-15EX squadrons with collaborative combat vehicles, AI driven, and Air Force owned EA-18 Growlers, that would be killer. Bear, I have been to Scotland. My great-grandfather and my great-grandmother are from Lesmahago. I think I pronounced that right. Kilmarnock and Lesmahago, Bear, is where my great-grandparents came from in Scotland. Anyway, that's what I would do at Kadena. And think about that, folks. So you have a F-35 Super Wing with 4 squadrons on the peninsula. You have 3 F-15EX squadrons, which they say they're going to put there, okay? Anyway, I'd resurrect the 12th, the 44th, and the 67th. I'd put wedge tails there, growlers there, and the new Super Strike Eagles there. There is no way people would mess with us over there, okay? I need to get decals for the 92nd Bomb Wing in Spokane for the B-52. Wang Chung, what kind of decals are you talking about? On a model kit? Or are you talking about like one of my drawings like I have here behind me? I'm just curious. I don't know if Geilenkirchen, Germany got rid of their AWACS aircraft. Okay, when you say yes, you mean one of the decals like I have behind me? I can do that. Yeah, the Seahawks logo. I've got that done. Yeah, I'm in the GAU. I forgot that's what it's called. So Geilenkirchen had the AWACS airplanes. It was the NATO AWACS too. I don't know if those airplanes left also, but they need wedge tails also. They need to have wedge tails there. I'd put F-15EXs at Spangdahlem. They're probably going to put F-35s at Aviano. The Aviano Block 40s, F-16s will probably leave with F-35s if that hasn't happened already, if that isn't in the works already. And hey, Wang Chung, hang on. This is what I want you to do. Hang on, folks. Wang Chung, there's my email address, okay? Just send it there. F-35s at Aviano. The 480th is at Spangdahlem. I'd put F-15EXs there, maybe 2 squadrons worth. You're welcome, Wang Chung. Wedge tails at Geilenkirchen. I would replace all of the F-15E Strike Eagles at Lakenheath with F-15EXs. They've got 1 F-35 squadron there now, but I'd put EXs there also. Brian, thanks for joining. The hog saved my life. I do not believe I would be here. Save that airplane. Bear, I would love to hear that story. Hey, Bear, do you see my email address up there? sluggo357@gmail.com. Would you please contact me? Because I'd love to hear that story about how the hog saved you, okay? Brian, have a good night. The EX, F-15EX, is going to be a fabulous airplane. I read an article the other day. Well, it's not stealthy. It's not low observable. Okay, fine. Let's hook it up to low observable collaborative combat vehicles, CCVs. And let's send those out in front of it to do whatever low observable thing, they need to do. Okay. How about we do that? There's workarounds to everything, folks. There really is. I am not concerned about the F-15EX, excuse me, not being low observable. All of the stuff, all of the equipment that it has in it, all the things that it can do, it's going to be a beast. All right. God, I think it's way too early to get rid of the F-22s. I know they're 20 years old. I know they've been around a long time. Kincaid, welcome back, brother. But that airplane is still the beast. You know, the F-35 is doing great work. Don't get me wrong. But the F-22 is just the monster. If you can put, I mean, imagine this on the opening night. You've got F-15EXs that have the capability of carrying 12 air-to-air missiles plus bombs on the conformal fuel tanks, F-22s, F-35s. The wedge tail is command and control and everything. The RC-135 rivet joint and Cobra Ball watching ballistic missiles are all in the mix. The Navy's got all of their stuff in the mix. I mean, that's going to be an unbeatable combination. And the Venezuelans think they can take us on. I want all of you to understand, I have watched the opening night of the Shakana Air Campaign standing next to the 3-star general commanding all air forces in the region. I got to see all of the tools all working at once right in front of me. All of them. Rivet joint, J-stars, prowlers, everything. And it overwhelmed the Iraqis. It would overwhelm the Chinese, in my opinion, too. We just train better. We train differently. And it comes down to our training and our dedication, in my opinion. I just don't think there's anybody out there that are a peer to us. I know I hear in the news everybody saying, "Oh, you know, the Chinese are our peers, the Russians are our peers." Yada yada. I don't believe it. I really don't. So, somebody asked me a question up here earlier about being a consultant to. Have you ever? Mike Jam asked, "Have you ever been offered or considered a job as a civilian consultant to the Pentagon?" Believe it or not, I have talked to people, but I'll tell you right now, I'd rather do this. I'd rather be having these virtual bar nights with you guys and gals than doing that stuff. I enjoy going to these air shows. I enjoy talking to all of you folks in the lives. I enjoy my podcast. I realize I haven't done one for a month or posted one for a month because I've been on the road. I enjoy, you know, doing the shorts and everything like that on TikTok. And I'm getting paid pretty good, folks. So, yeah, don't let them suck me back in. That's the thing, Michelle. That big sucking sound. No, no. You know, the Pentagon, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go back. I've never worked in the Pentagon. Okay, the 5-sided puzzle palace. You know, there was another name that we had for it. What was it? It was so appropriate for it. Okay. Oh, the pit of despair. The Pentagon, we called it the pit of despair. You went there and it was just craziness, okay? With the budgeting and the policies and oh my gosh, okay? And it's time for warriors to be warriors. It really is, folks. And the things that are going on in the world, things are going on inside the United States. Would you have ever believed that a Muslim cleric would go up to stores in Houston saying you can no longer sell alcohol, pork, or play music in your store anymore because it offends us? I'm sorry you're offended, but that's not the American way. Yeah, abandon all hope, all ye who enter into the Pentagon. I was a tech that made comma better. Royal Signals. Oh, excellent. I've been reading your comms since 1994. Been reading our comm since 1994. Bear, it'd be very fascinating to find out what you've been reading, particularly some of the people that we've had in our government. Oh my gosh. All right, folks, I got to go. We will not be doing this Thursday night because I'll be going to the air show at Andrews Air Force Base. I arrive there Thursday afternoon. I'm going to drive right down to Andrews. So I probably will not have time to do a live on Thursday night because I have to tie 1,500 pieces of candy to 1,500 parachutes for the candy drops. Okay. So the following week, I'll be in Atlanta, and I'll take all my stuff with me with Atlanta, my camera and all the stuff, so we can do that stuff there too. Okay. All right. Wang Chung, you've got my email. Just email me. Let's talk about your B-52. Mike Jam, I appreciate, lots of wisdom and experience. Okay. But I'll tell you something. They don't want to hear from a guy like me because I tell them exactly the way it should be. Hopefully the group that we have now is better at that. Okay. But I ran into a lot of resistance when I put out a lot of things and said, we're doing this wrong, because some people get very embarrassed when you tell them that dog don't hunt. And I'm not afraid to tell people that dog don't hunt. That policy isn't going to work. Okay. I had a very simple test for creating new tactics, techniques, and procedures. It was, what is your objective? Number one, what is your objective of this new tactics, technique, or procedure? Number two, how do you know the objectives have been met? Number three, is it trainable? Can you train the troops to do it? The airmen, the sailors. And number four, is the cure worse than the disease? I was too practical, too pragmatic. Anyway, yes, Michelle, once again, congratulations to your family on the recent wedding. All right. Bear, you go get yourself some rum there, brother. All right, folks. Sluggo signing off here. Have a great night. Have a great week. And we'll be back up next week. Thursday, I'm not going to make it because I'm on an airplane and then driving down to Andrews Air Force Base. All right. See ya.